I'm Lynnz from Arcanys, and this is Arcanys Career Talks. In our previous episode, I had a chat with recruitment specialists, Earl and Normie, about how to optimize your tech CVs and portfolios. For this second part of our How to Get Hired at Arcanys series, we'll be tackling how to prepare for those dreaded interviews and tech exams. This time, I'll be joined by recruitment specialists Lynnz, Gidz, and Mike, as well as senior developer Djane. Be ready to take some notes, and happy listening! Okay, good afternoon, guys. Thank you for joining me today in this episode, second part of the recruitment episode, and hope we will be able to share more insights to applicants out there who might be interested in joining the Arcanys family, So first off, how about we introduce ourselves? Who would like to start?
I'm Gidz, and I'm a technical recruiter in Arcanys. I've been with technical recruitment as well for almost 4 years now, and this is actually my first IT company because prior to Arcanys, I've been with call center companies.
Similar to Gidz, this is actually my first IT company as well. So I have been working in Arcanys for 4 years already, but I have been in the recruitment field for I think over 10 years.
Hi, I'm DJ. I'm I guess senior developer at Arcanys, and I've been in the industry for 12 years, and 7 years of it, almost 7, is in Arcanys. And yeah, in recruitment, I do some interviews, technical interviews, front end, back end, full stack, from junior to senior, not the architect level, but just senior.
So my name is Mike. I've been with Arcanys. Actually, I'm the newest in the recruitment team. I've been less than 1 year, or even less than 6 months with the company. But in terms of work experience, I've been doing recruitment since 2004. So it has been quite a while. Yes. First job was actually in headhunting, so it's a mixture of in-house recruitment, and I worked with recruitment firms, so a little bit of both. So, but mainly technical recruitment has been my exposure.
So it's as long as I have been in writing. Wow. Okay. So let's get on with the first question. What are the stages in the recruitment process, and what do you aim to discover in each step or stage? Like, give just the bullet points.
Right. So the stages of our recruitment process are first HR screening, then HR interview, then we have the technical exam, then followed by the technical interview, then the final interview stage. We also have positions which include or which would require client interviews, but this is not the general process. Actually, this is just on a case-to-case basis.
It depends on the client.
Yeah, depends on the client or the requirement.
So how about why do candidates need to go through all those stages? Do you think some parts may be redundant? Have you encountered an instance that you think some stages or steps might have been redundant?
I can answer that. I mean, I don't think it would be redundant in a way that, typically for a recruitment process, it's like a filtering system. You would be getting applicants both from passive and active sources. So it's going to be, let's say, a bulk of profiles or candidates. And then with the HR screening, you would review them based on their resume. See if, let's say, the years of experience would fit, the skill set that they have in their resume. And then from there, the recruiters would at least review and check who among them would be applicable for the HR screening or the HR interview, sorry. And then from the HR interview or the initial interview, they would speak with the candidate, get a feel in terms of how their profile is, their work experience, their soft skills. In a way, as recruiters, we also wanted to verify, let's say, their people skills, their soft skills, besides the technical skills. Because in a way, it is important for us to identify candidates not only with their technical know-how, but in terms of would they fit, the culture of Arcanys. So that is the reason why we do the initial interviews or the HR interviews. And then the technical exam, it's crucial before the technical interview. So at least we could assess, their skill set, being hands-on. So they could do, let's say, mock-up tests, or, they have to complete a specific task. And then the technical interviewer would basically check their work. And then if they pass the assessment or the rating of the technical interviewer, and then that's the time that they would be scheduled for the technical interview. So there they would check, at least it's similar to, you could say, an initial interview, but the difference is that it's more tech-driven, it's more technical questions. So it would later on identify if they really know the technical skills or the languages that they put actually in the resume. And then finally, with Alan, so just more or less checking overall if they pass the overall assessment. So at least if things would work out, and then they would, an offer would be made afterwards.
Our approach to recruitment is actually holistic in a way. So each stage has different focus, which is crucial in finding the right candidate for the position.
How long does it take for you guys to, usually the range of how many days is the waiting period for an applicant before you guys can assess their CV and get back to them?
Okay. All right. So so as soon as we receive the application, we make sure that we actually process the application right away, because we have like a 24-hour window that we try to we're really encouraged to process them right away, to to keep them warm and to keep them engaged. So from the time that we receive the application, we assess the CV right away, and then if the applicant passes the CV review, that after checking their technologies, their salary expectations, and also how soon they can start with us. So basically, it's the minimum hiring requirement checking done during the CV review. And if they pass that stage, then they proceed to the HR interview stage. And in the HR interview, that's where we also set proper expectations with them on what are the recruitment stages.
So now, since you mentioned that after the CV assessments, it would be HR interviews. So for that stage, for this stage, what's the first thing you try to discover about a candidate?
During the HR interview, we check on the work history, the projects that they had, and so this includes the past and present projects that they had, and then the technologies that they use in each project. We also check on their interest and also motivations, like what are their expectations from the company, what technologies they want to be trained for, and so on a personal level as well, we check on their hobbies. Yeah, so what do they enjoy doing outside of work? So that, and also Gidz can add.
Yeah, to add, we also try to check if the candidate is cultural fit. That one is very important to us. So during the HR interview, we ask them situational questions. Of course, we relate to their, like for example, because most of the time our candidates would tell us about their challenges and their work experiences. So coming from there, we relate our questions to their challenges and turn them into situational questions.
So during the HR interview, this is also where we share the perks and benefits of the company, and then we set proper expectations for the next stages. And at the end of the interview, we also give the applicants the opportunity to ask questions too. So that's where they ask personal or sometimes questions that's related to Arcanys or how's our experience so far working in Arcanys.
I'm curious though. You just mentioned like work related. Have some candidates ask you about personal, actually, like, to the point of impertinent questions?
Yes. I got um I don't know if it's personal, but for me, yeah, I think it's personal. Um, he actually asked me why I'm still in Arcanys. Yeah, why? Because I mentioned during the call that I have been working in the company for 4 years already, and then he asked me, why are you still in Arcanys? What's making you stay in the company? So yeah,
Ah,
so I think
I
it's
can
a
read
person.
that.
I answered him on a personal level because the question for me is kind of personal. So yeah, I shared with him my experience with the company.
That's
Yeah,
actually a
I get
smart
those
one.
questions. Yeah,
Yeah, you get those
I sometimes
questions
get
too, no?
those. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, especially you, DJ, because you've been, oh wait, almost a decade with the company.
No, no, just yeah, just almost. But yeah, I get those questions, especially uh the question that's where what do I do in a day-to-day basis, and why I like Arcanis. But I just treat it as a opportunity to like advertise more in what we actually do, and the perks, because personally I like the perks in Arcanis. So I try to like in a personal level try to like, yeah, this is what we have and so cool. So yeah.
Nice, thank you. And on behalf of the
Yeah.
marketing team.
I mean, it's also a plus. I mean, if ever candidates ask that, because it shows their interest, that they are actually eager and they wanted to know more. Because I think nowadays, I think the younger generation, they're more keen in terms of what what will benefit them. Let's say if they join a company, not just the work, but in terms of the company itself. So what would they get? What would they experience? So having those questions asked by the candidates would actually help us to you could say sell the opportunity and the company itself. So yeah, it worked. So
Yeah, I agree. I was just thinking, that's a smart question. I don't think I thought of that when I got interviewed. Anyway, okay. Next question. How long do the HR interviews usually last? And right now that we're like doing hybrid work setup, is it always online?
Usually it takes about 30 to 45 minutes with us, mostly longer for seniors who have many years of work experience. And for recruiters, we're actually doing or we're working from home, so it's mostly online. So there's no need for candidates anymore. Like previously, we asked them to go to the office, but right now it's very easy now since we can do interviews online.
Okay, next question. How can you tell if someone is a good culture fit with Arcanis or not?
Okay, we check if the candidate is positive, not arrogant, and maybe can work well with team members, because this is what I've noticed for some of the reviews of the technical team. They should be able to work well with the team members, and then they should be also as well self-motivated, who is learning into new technologies, and interests and goals are aligned with the company's values as well.
Yeah, sometimes motivations can make or break in my end, since sometimes they when we interview their candidates that don't quite get a cut in terms of technical skills and experience. But when we look at the positivity and their eagerness to learn, uh if that they're not they're almost there, but they're not even motivated to learn more, so it's definitely a no for me. but sometimes they're very motivated even though they're just a bit of experience. So sometimes I just include that note in the feedback and then put a thumb mark there. So yeah.
Nice, okay.
Mm.
How do you find out, or like, how do you make sure that the candidate is giving you honest answers, not just the ones that they think you would like to hear from them?
That's where the star method would actually come in. We don't just ask for one situations or one experience that they have. We actually ask for two or three experiences that they have. Kids can answer this question actually.
So as what Lynn said, we typically ask them situational questions about the challenges that they encountered. So, for example, we ask them how they dealt with having to work with someone they're not comfortable with. So, with this question, we get to see how a candidate can be a team player or not. And then maybe another question, like for example, for organization or time management, we ask them how they cope up with their work when there is too much on their plate. So those type of questions we ask during the HR interview.
Right. And then we also take a look at the pattern of behavior of the applicant, or the pattern of their experiences. Okay, I'm not sure if you've heard about this one, but in psychology, they say that past behavior predicts future behavior. So this is actually very applicable to me since I started working in the recruitment field. I look at the past experiences of the candidates and see if there is a pattern in the behavior. And then, for example, if the candidate had conflicts with his or her colleagues before in almost all of his or her employment, so that's a red flag for me. Okay, and so it might translate that because he or she had conflicts before, he will also have conflicts when he joins the company.
So, next question: what kind of questions do you usually ask to find out or discover a candidate's soft skills? So, like maybe communication skills.
You mentioned, comm skills. So I think what's important there is, during the interview, you could actually gauge already if the person, speaks well. In terms of the other soft skills is, I think I know Gidz and Lynnz mentioned, situational questions. So it's, we don't normally ask, let's say, a question that, could be answered by a yes or no. It's something more or less that, they could explain why, with Lynnz mentioning, not just one question, but, other scenarios, not just one. Sometimes it could be, let's say, similar questions, checking if they are actually accurate or not, or if they actually, give different types of answers with, the same result, if ever that would be the case. So it's more of that. So, a bit of psychology questions and a bit of, let's say, questions or trick questions to make sure that, they are actually consistent with their answers.
What is how do you decide if the person can move on to the next step or not? Do you have a checklist for each step, or do you do it by feel?
I think what's the nearest to a checklist would be our minimum hiring requirement per position. So say for QA, we require at least 4 years experience in software testing. So that is a number one checklist. So the candidate has to have at least 4 years experience in software testing. Okay, so that I think it's very clear. Then second would be their salary expectations, okay, which is usually discussed during the HR interview stage. So we have to set proper expectations with them that we follow a certain range for the salary offer. And our salary is actually based our offer is based on different factors, okay, which we'd rather discuss during the HR interview stage. And then next would be their availability, because there are some positions that would require or that is urgent, so we need someone who can join us right away. Okay, and there are applicants who are not flexible in terms of their start date. Okay, so that is also another checklist, or that is also another part or another criterion on the checklist.
For candidates, what are the no-nos they should avoid during interviews?
For the technical interviews, I think you should, as a candidate, you should try to make things short and relevant to the question, since usually especially if like you're a good fit, usually there are a lot of things that we need to cover. So in technical interviews, it's usually like we have to finish it in 1 hour, since we are not full-time interviewers. So we try to we would like to have the most information in 1 hour. So we appreciate if it's straight to the point and fairly simple and short.
Okay, short and concise, straight to the point. Okay, what else?
For the HR interviews, a no-no would be going to the interview unprepared. Make sure that you review your resume, your experiences, because definitely we would be checking those things in terms of consistency. And another no-no would be don't candidates not asking questions, because that's actually for us to determine if this person is interested or not. So yeah, those two things is something that for me is important. That one would be prepared, and second would be ask questions. I think that is something that is critical also for us.
Okay, how about the ladies? Do you have any tips, any no-nos?
It's also very important that you show up on time. As much as possible, we respect each other's time. So please avoid being late during the interview.
Wait, it's important that you maintain a good environment during the call. So you eliminate the distractions like maybe pets or children joining the interview, waving at the back. So that's actually that's a big red flag for us, because we are now in a permanent work from home setup. So it is vital that you have a good working environment and you have a good internet connection as well.
Okay, so next is the technical interviews. So this is your time to shine, Jane.
I don't want to shine.
So, okay, for the technical interviews, who conducts the tech interviews? Apparently, guys like you, but interviewers, do you have a criteria when you tap into the tech experts like Djane here? So
interviewers should be strong with the technology that they're interviewing for, and we also get recommendations from Alan and from Eric, who can do the interviews.
Seniority. For QA, our interviewers are all senior level QAs already, because they have been in the company for quite a while. They are the best person to really determine if the candidate can fit to the culture of the company, and if the candidate can be a team player, or if they can work with the candidate as well.
Okay, that's important, I guess. How about from the perspective of the technical interviewer, DJ?
Yeah, what they said is true, I guess. But one factor I can add is maybe the availability of that developer. For me personally, I'm in a project wherein Alan is, or the company is I think is a shareholder for that project. So we have more flexibility in my time. Alan can easily try to grab me. I mean, he can put me in other things without upsetting the client.
That's why we get as many technical interviewers as possible. So can be flexible.
Yeah, in case someone is unavailable, you
Mhm.
can tap somebody else right away. You have
Yeah.
like a lineup already. Okay.
Mhm.
So, next is usually what type of interviews are technical interviews? Is it an individual interview or have you had like a panel interview? How about also a comparison of before we went remote and now that we're on remote?
When you say panel interview, do you mean like a bunch of people line up in a long table and then ask a person sitting on a stool?
Yes, yes, something like that. Like those things that you see in like interviews, especially like Japanese shows or
In my end, in the past, wherein we interview in the office, just usually sit in a table together with the candidate. It isn't. It's like sort of informal. Maybe because also of the culture of the company, we're not that formal in the office. So we try to do the interviews as comfortable as possible, and I think it helps also that to make the candidate more relaxed to yeah, you can get more accurate information if they're relaxed. I experienced a candidate once that is like very nervous. So
okay. So, but when you did the interviews before in the office, was it only you or were you with another Arcanite?
we interview, I think all it's almost always a minimum of two people. um for me personally, I want it that way. I prefer it that way to like have more opinions. uh I don't want to be the sole uh guy responsible for the applicants
Demise.
progress. Yeah. Yeah, but there are times wherein, like for example, there are two candidates, I mean two interviewees booked, but the one got an emergency something, so can't join, so we're forced to have like one interviewer, so that happens also.
Okay. So now that we're doing remote, it's also the usual, like two technical interviewers with one candidate. Okay.
Yeah, but also I think it also depends on the technology, since for example, if you have like go go dev, I think there's not many go dev that it can do interviews. I think there's only one, so you're forced to have only one interviewer for that. If it's Node.js, I think there are a lot, so you have a lot of
So
choices.
it also depends on the availability of the interviewers. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's why do we bother with technical interviews? I mean, a lot of technical like tech experts don't actually like, face-to-face talks and stuff, but here in Arcanys particularly, why do we bother with technical interviews? Can't the CVs or the portfolios be enough?
Well, I think I can answer since I'm the one doing the technical interviews. Um, yeah, what I've seen so far is that CVs sometimes people write them um, with less info, or sometimes more info than you need. Basically, sometimes they underestimate themselves in the CV. Sometimes they overestimate themselves in the CV. So it's very good to talk to them and have a conversation, like one by one in each experience that they have, um, how deep their experiences are, like what are the things that they've tried in that field, because sometimes they write something, a technology, but it doesn't, you don't know what actually what's the thing that they did with that technology. Sometimes they just help developing that, sometimes they developed it from scratch. So yeah, it's big help to actually talk to somebody.
I'm, people could put anything in the resume. They could base it off, let's say, somebody else's profile. So it's more of like verifying, making sure that what they actually input in the CV is actually correct, and in a way, just double checking if it's true what's actually in the CV. So just as I mentioned, just verifying or double checking. So just to be on the safe side.
Yeah,
Anything?
I agree with Mike and DJ. We might make wrong assumptions when we just see the CVs of our candidates. And then also in CVs, we can also determine the thought process of our candidates. So as what DJ said, it's better that we talk to them so that we know when we have, like, for example, they have this certain skills like solving skills or how they make judgments.
Now we move on to the technical exam. So, how long do the exams usually take?
Well, actually, there are a lot of technical exams, and I'm not I don't know all of them. Since I for the exams usually it's Eric. I only have the Python exams, which takes around 4 hours.
Well, really, the Python. So you only check the Python exams.
Yeah, it's not one exam. I think it's multiple
Series.
problems to solve. So it's not really just to solve one problem in 4 hours. So
How about the recruitment team? I know that you guys conduct the technical exams. So how
Mm.
long does it usually take? How about for the web dev or the QA?
Yeah, for other openings, it usually take 2 to 4 hours, depending if I mean the level, skill level of the candidates. Because, like, for example, for our .NET developer position, we have an examination for mid-level .NET, and for our mid-level, it's actually 2 hours. While for our senior candidates or senior level, it's a 4-hour exam.
That makes sense since,
Hmm.
since you say that you know more, then you have to show more.
More coverage for senior levels.
Okay. As you've mentioned, I'm guessing the exams will depend on the technology. But what are the usual challenges candidates can expect from them?
yeah, I guess that the time is because of it's mostly like a mini project that you have to complete in that amount of time. So mostly the project is already existing in a broken state and they have to fix it.
So
Yeah.
okay, it's like a grammar exam, like spot the errors in this or something.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah, in programming we have automated tests and then they have to pass all those um tests that are there. So they have to fix it. So it's mostly like that.
Speaking of automated tests, for QA, um, pretty much similar to the web dev exams. So it has different categories. So
correct.
example, it has test creations, test case creations, and they also have to find the bugs in they're presented with a broken system. So they have to get they have to check on the bugs and report these bugs. Um, and it's also a time bounded exam. It's 1 hour and 30 minutes. Then for automation, which is I'd say more complex, it's a 3 hour exam. So same thing. It has different categories as well for automation. So we really make sure before we schedule them for the exam, actually set proper expectations with them. We give them tips on how to prepare for the exam, and also make sure that when they start with the exam, they won't be interrupted anymore, and that they have, which is very important, good internet connection.
Ultimately, what do these exams what should these exams help you assess in a candidate?
In the technical exam, there are 4 categories. The first category would let you answer multi-choice questions. So in here, you'll be asked questions, or we will assess your knowledge on some technical terms. And then for the second part, we assess your written communication skills by answering an essay. And for the third and fourth categories, these are programming tasks. So in here, you'll be assessed on your programming skills.
Who usually checks or assesses the exams? Are they the same people who will conduct the tech interview?
Not necessarily. I noticed for like web mostly is Eric, who is the architect. For Python, me, since since I'm the Python guy there. I think that's it for .NET. I guess there's I'm not familiar, but I guess there's Rafael.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for .NET, we let Bach check the examination and Rafael does the technical interview.
So, how long before you can give candidates feedback after this step?
Yeah, as soon as the result is up, we immediately give update to you. So our goal is actually to give you an update within 24 hours.
So it's the same as when you assess the CVs.
Mm-hmm,
Nice.
correct.
Okay. So
I
it's
think we are the bottleneck, the one that checks. We're usually the one who's late.
Hello.
Yeah, because after the technical interview, we right away endorse the candidate to Alan.
Okay. So next is do you have any advice for those candidates who fail the exams?
First of all, candidates, I'd like you to be open in your answers. If you have technical issues in answering the problems, I think you should try to warn us, or I mean tell us about it. We highly appreciate. We don't want to fail people who are legitimately skillful just because of an issue that can be solved by asking.
So how about for the recruitment side? Do you have like any tips for people, for candidates who fail the exams?
Refresh your knowledge, be updated with the best practices in the industry, maybe by enrolling some training plans that is available online. Most of these training plans are actually for free, so yeah, you can choose there, and then you also create personal projects. Maybe you can do some side projects using the latest technologies that would actually help in honing your skills.
That is one smart tip.
Yeah, just to add on that, so I mean, in terms of giving feedback, candidates or you should be open to constructive criticism. I mean, for the interviews, you could pass, you could fail, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you won't be welcome anymore. In Arcanys, with let's say the constructive criticism that is given to you, work on it, and then in a couple of months or maybe after a year you could apply back, and then who knows, by that time your experience is now more suitable for the company. So it's more of just don't give up. If it's the company that you really want to apply to, don't hesitate, just try, and then we'll see in the end if it's going to be a win for you or a win for us.
How about for the final interviews? Yay. Do all successful candidates go through the final interview with Alan?
Yes, because he is actually the deciding a person who, if the candidate gets considered or not.
Alan has the final say if we're hiring the candidate right now or we're pulling the candidate for future requirement.
Okay. So what can candidates expect from this setup, the final interview? Now that we're doing remote, is it still remote?
For the final interview, it's just very brief. So you'll still be asked questions though about your work experience, your past projects, the setup of your team, the training that you followed. He would also ask you about the technologies that interest you and your aspirations as well.
Yeah, just to add on that one, I think we've discussed this in the previous answers to the question that Alan also, let's say, confirms maybe your past answers from the initial to the technical interview. So just to make sure, all right, is this person consistent? And then he feels that you could be a good fit for us, and then he'll pass you for the next, for the job offer. Yeah.
So do you have any tips like for how candidates can prepare for the final interview for this stage.
Yeah, for the final, it's us the same tips that we have for candidates who are for HR interview, technical exam, and technical interview. So still the same. Okay. So our final interview is via Zoom, and we actually require our candidates. You will be required to turn on your camera. Okay, so as much as possible before you join the Zoom meeting, you already eliminated the possible distractions that you have, and also make sure that you have good internet connection all throughout the interview. And the most important, actually the most important tip, and I guess this is where Alan is really very particular of. So refrain from using titles like sir or Mr. or boss. Call him Alan. So we're on a first name basis here in Arcanys. So
I
yeah.
remember that. They made it a point to tell me that you shouldn't say sir.
It's actually for me, I include that even during my HR interview. So when they start, calling you Miss Lynnz or Miss, so I set proper expectations with them as early as HR interview that you have to practice as early as now, because you still have 2 or 3 more interviews, and we're on a first name basis here in Arcanys. So make sure that you practice as early as now. So yeah.
It's also because of our flat management style. So at least we start from there calling names by their first name basis.
And our developers and our QAs here in Arcanys, they're like consultants to our clients. So they actually have direct communications with them. And our clients are also I cannot speak for in behalf of them, but I'm assuming that they have this culture as well, that they would want to be called by their first name. Yes.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
So aside from that, what are other tips? Okay.
As much as possible, just be themselves. Be honest about what you know and what you do not know.
Right, and be also consistent with your answers, and also in your salary expectations. Okay, because I actually have experience. A candidate was endorsed to the final interview stage. So he gave a different amount to Alan. Alan was like was not happy about it, because it shows that the candidate was not consistent with his answers. And
Alan doesn't mind pauses. Have you noticed that?
borderline, he doesn't like talking too much. When you give long-winded answers, it's like something something to avoid. You have to go straight to the point and give relevant answers.
I don't have much, but looking at the culture of the company or overall, they should just be themselves and just relax. Alan's not gonna bite.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I guess it would help if you think of him as Alan and not Mr. Alan or Sir Alan. It's more intimidating to like imagine Mr. Alan or Sir Alan. Just Alan, you'll be more relaxed by not using those honorifics.
Yeah. You're right. Anything else, you guys? General tips for candidates applying to Arcanys, or maybe general tips for candidates applying to tech companies like Arcanys?
But yeah, tips most likely would be just be prepared on time, be yourself, and don't be afraid to ask questions. So those are some simple tips, for any interviews that you would be attending to. Right.
At least show connection to your interviewers. be engaged in the interview, smile, not most of the time, but from time to time, you smile to your interviewer, and just make sure that you will not be distracted throughout the interview.
Those are good tips. Nice. Okay. Thank you for joining me today and answering questions and giving insights for our future candidates to Arcanys and maybe to other tech companies. But well, hopefully they will come to Arcanys. So thank you again, guys. Hope you have a good evening.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.